As Sam mentioned, the title of our study is The Impact of Music on Locomotor Performance in Children. Just to give you a little bit of background information, we all know that fundamental motor skills are very important. The development of these skills, such as running, hopping, and jumping, contribute to cognitive, social, motor, and physical growth in children. In a lot of cases, fundamental motor skills are taught to children, and the constraints present in the learning environment may determine the competency of skill performance that is achieved. So it is very important to determine the best conditions under which to teach children these skills, since they are so crucial to development. One of these learning conditions could be in the presence of music, since there is evidence to suggest that moving rhythmically is an essential element of coordinated movement. If you think about it, the rhythms of locomotor skills such as galloping, hopping, or jumping can all be expressed through sound. And music and movement education programs help to emphasize the importance of rhythmic ability to locomotive performance. So the purpose of our study was to examine the impact of music on the performance of locomotor skills in children ages 9 to 12 years old. We chose this age group because we knew that they would be very cooperative and attentive during data collection. We also knew that these children would have at least a basic understanding of their locomotor skills, so their skills have the potential to be impacted by music. If we were to choose a younger age group, there may be a floor effect, since they do not have many of their skills developed. So it was hypothesized that performing locomotor skills in the presence of music would lead to improved performance of these skills, and Chrissy is going to explain how we tested this hypothesis.
So we got permission to conduct a study at a private school located in Philadelphia. Out of a potential sample size of 76, we received 29 consent forms back and administered the test to all 29 kids. We did, however, exclude 8 kids from data analysis, 4 because they did not follow instructions properly, and 4 because we were missing data on them. So we ended up with a sample size of 21, 13 of which female and 8 of which were male, with an average age of 10.87 years and a standard deviation of 0.63 years. Data was collected and recorded via video camera, and we administered the test in the school's gym during the kids' physical education time.
So the instrument that we used to analyze our data set was the Test of Gross Motor Development, the second edition, which is a standardized, commonly used assessment in physical education. There's 2 subscales to that particular assessment. There's a locomotor subscale and an object control subscale. We elected not to use the object control subscale because that wasn't the intent of the study. The intent was to look at locomotor performance. So the children performed a run, a gallop, a hop, a leap, a jump, and a slide twice. If they indicated that they failed to follow instructions by their own performance, Julieann would demonstrate it again, and then the child would try it again. So 2 trials of each under 2 different conditions, which will be explained in just a second. And I also wanted to mention that Julieann was conducting all the assessments after some training because Julieann has a sense of rhythm and I do not.
So the music we chose for condition 1 was the song I Like to Move It by will.i.am. And we chose it because it's a popular song from a popular movie, especially well known by the age group that we're looking at. And also we chose it because it has a faster tempo of at 127 beats per minute, which we thought to be an ideal pace to facilitate locomotive tasks. And condition 2 was originally intended to just be the condition without music playing. We didn't actively instruct the kids to be quiet during that time. However, for the most part, they seemed to be quiet throughout, so that's why we call it the quiet condition. And then this past summer, Julieann and I analyzed and coded the data that we collected using the TGMD scale. I was not aware of what we were testing. The sound was muted on the computer, so all I knew at the time was that we were coding kids' locomotive skills. But before we can code, we had to train with Dr. Breslin And so we had a 90% agreement on 3 different tasks, or 3 different occasions on each skill. Some skills taking longer than others. After all the data was coded, Julieann and I had an iterator reliability percentage of 91.16 overall.
Which brings us to the statistical analysis. We decided to do a paired samples t-test looking at locomotor subscale scores for the music condition and the quiet condition, and we found no significant difference between the 2 conditions. If you look at the mean scores for the music condition, we had an average of 31.81, and a quiet condition, there was an average of 31.71. The way that the TGMD is scored is there's a series of 3 to 5 criterion for each one of the 6 skills that are included on the assessment, and if a child performs the 2 criterion, then you code it as a 1, and if they do not, then you code it as a 0. So you end up with a possible 48, and so we had about 31.81 in the music condition and 31.71 in the quiet condition, so basically the same. And if you look at the standard deviation, it's also very similar, 4.21 in the music condition and 3.00 in the quiet. So if we found no significant difference, we have to figure out what that means. So Julieann will tell us what it means.
So unfortunately, this means that locomotor performance is no different during music and quiet conditions. However, we still encourage teachers of physical education and other movement programs to include a rhythmic element in their classrooms because there is evidence in the literature to suggest that music is motivating for children. And during data collection, we did observe some behaviors in the children that may show that they were motivated by the music and enjoyed the music. One of these behaviors, for example, was children would tap out the rhythms of the skills they were performing during the quiet condition. For example, they would tap out the gallop rhythm because it's a very distinct rhythm. We also observed children singing the song from the music condition in the quiet condition, which shows that they enjoyed the music. And we also observed children practicing during the music condition, which shows that they were motivated by the presence of a rhythmic element. So although we did not quantitatively measure these things, we still think that they suggest that music is motivating. So there were some limitations to this study. One of them was the instruments that we used to measure performance. The TGMD scale and the video recording may not have been sensitive enough to detect changes in the differences in performance in both conditions. More complex motion capture systems, such as Dartfish, for example, may have detected more subtle changes in movement. Another limitation is that we did not measure levels of motivation, which may have affected performance in each of the 2 conditions. And then finally, we only tested with one song in the music condition, so we do not know if a different song could have affected performance differently. So the limitations of this study may suggest ideas for future research on the topic of music and movement in children. Future research could measure the motivational impact of music in movement classes. We could also measure the quality of movement in both music and quiet conditions, such as the speed or amplitude of movement, and this could be measured using a motion capture system. Finally, we could compare the performance of children already enrolled in dance classes that have a movement and music component to them, and compare this to children who are only involved in a movement program with no music. So in closing, we just want to thank all the people who made this project possible. First, we want to thank the Philadelphia School, the administrators and students there who allowed us to come into their classrooms, specifically Amy Warrenberg, Terry McConnell, and Meg Waldron. We also want to thank Seth Tiffany, who is an undergraduate student at Temple University who helped with data collection this summer. And finally, this project was funded by the Temple University Diamond Research Scholars Program, so it would not have been made possible without them. So thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, it's validated for just before you reach 11 years old, but we weren't comparing the scores to the normative data, so we could use it to measure any age group's performance.
Well, what I'm thinking of is your average age is close to that point, so that could be that there's some sort of similar.
Right.
In other words, you just can't detect differences when you're topping out on the age. So if you look at number of children, so you just replicate these with 6 or 7 or 8-year-olds, keep the mean age down, you might have better success.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Thank you. Yes.
Is there any possibility that the actual music you selected influenced the result that you got, even to the point where maybe in a negative sense, if you had a different rhythm or a different class of music, you may have got different results up or down. In other words, it would seem you could drive this either way according to the music that you play.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the limitations to the study. We only used one piece of music, but it would be interesting to look at different types of music.
Or something unfamiliar to them. Because, as you said, even when they were doing their post-test or the quiet time, they would sing okay. And so if you do something maybe they weren't familiar with, then they wouldn't be able to have an internal pattern going, which may affect your study.
Yes.
So there is a lot of evidence that with just simple rhythmic auditory cueing can have immediate effects on smoothness and coordination and timing of movements. So do you think you could repeat the experiment, or either, I think Nancy's idea was also good in Charles, but can you repeat it with having, say, sensors on the legs so you can get some more quality of the movement, just smoothness and things like that, or and timing, or a gait mat or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, that would be really interesting. We just didn't have access to that type of technology, but we were thinking about looking at the speed and just like the amplitude of movement, like how large or small they're moving in the two conditions, but we didn't really have the technology to look at that. Yes.
I was just wondering which factor is that as far as like music first or without music first?
Oh, we have to remember. We switched the order up. It was counterbalanced who had music first, who had quiet first. But I don't know the exact numbers of how many.
We ran the analysis and there was no difference. So if they got music first or if they got quiet condition first, it was not that different. There was no significant difference there.
How long did you have like time between like the one assessment and the other?
We did it in the same day. So each group of kids was there for probably 30 minutes, a half an hour, so that we would work our way through the group of kids. They came in groups of 3 or 4, roughly 3 or 4, to make them more comfortable since they had strange researchers there. So they would come through, they would work their way through one at a time, and then we'd do it in one condition and then do it in the other condition.
Yes. Yeah, we didn't train them. I mean, we spoke with the physical education instructors, and they said that they had a basic understanding of the 6 skills. But, I mean, that's a good point. If they're not competent in the skills to begin with, then the music might not have an effect at all, or there may not be a difference.
I have been working with the physical education teachers there for most of last school year. They would come and visit my classes, and I would go and watch their physical education classes and give feedback. And they actually did a lot more music than what I normally see. Like there was a lot of singing in their PE classes and lots of rhythmic activities. And so I kind of observed, what they would have gotten had they been in this school, prior to the 4th and 5th grade classes that we used. So having observed that and having worked with them, I kind of felt confident. And also, encoding the data, it doesn't seem like there was as much of a floor effect. Now, I will be honest in that most of the time when I do TGMDs, it's with kids with autism who are usually pretty low performing on the TGMD. So perhaps I'm biased to thinking these kids were excellent because they weren't doing as poorly as children with autism might. But that's a valid point that their prior training could have impacted things.
Yes, very nice ideas, very nice. And for the future research, they can practice their to learn this skill through the different environment, music and quiet, and see how that controls their learning.
Yeah. I will also say that Julieann was in a sophomore level motor behavior class in the fall of last year, and she actually came, I think it was the end of the semester, she came to me with the research question in mind. And for everyone that's a faculty member in here, you totally want to encourage this kind of thinking, as opposed to like, I didn't do my homework and here's how it's your problem. So by all means, I was going to support Julieann in this project, but these are all valid points. And also, as I said, I have no sense of rhythm, so I don't know that we're going to be able to replicate these again, because Julieann will graduate and no longer be a part of the dance team and a part of Temple Kinesiology one day. So.